Hey now and welcome. It's the Bergie and Booker show. He's Big Ten Bergie. I'm Odak Booker. The Old Dominion Athletic Conference stepping up. Went down to Roanoke last weekend. We each have an injury to talk about. Tell us about your feeling on the Nick Chubb situation, and then I'll tell you my big one.
I don't want to see it. Don't show it to me. And when the announcers were saying we're not going to show it to you, I looked back up. I don't want to see it. I know what it is. The ankle ones really bother me because I had both my ankles reconstructed. The knee one, I didn't want to see it. My wife, who's nuts and disgusting, and our oldest daughter, they are searching for it online. I want to see it. I want to see it.
Yeah.
So I've had it described to me. Bone out, knee just completely apart, blood coming down. Season over. Right.
Oh, yeah. Maybe career.
Yeah. Very easily, unfortunately, career. And it goes back to that why they're not paying the running backs. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but Shaquan Barkley's already hurt again. I don't know what his status is. Chubb's done. I mean, he's already on the IR, not going to play all year long. And it's just such a brutal position. And that's why I think, that's why those guys want to get paid. But I also think that's why the NFL says, we're not going to pay you. We're going to load guys in 2 and 3 and 4. And I hope it doesn't happen to, the show's favorite Josh Jacobs and guys like that. But it's a brutal position, and what a brutal injury. It just, the NFL, not for long, right? I mean, it's unbelievable. Yeah.
So my big injury for the last weekend, Travis Hunter, and I know we're about to get into Colorado at Oregon. If he wasn't going to win the Heisman Trophy, tell me who was. I mean, the kid played both sides of the ball, and he lacerated his liver. Yeah. So he's out for a couple.
And I'm probably in the minority. I don't think that the hit was as cheap as people are making it out to be. I think the kid's trying to stop. I think he's running. He wants to hit him, and he's kind of like that. And it's so stupid. And yeah, we'll talk about Coach Prime. What a stand-up dude Prime was yesterday, getting online and saying, "Stop with these death threats. This is a good kid. This is a kid who played a great game." And talking about the Colorado State guy that hit him and saying, we have forgotten him, forgiven him. Travis has forgiven him. Colorado's moved on. And I agree. Travis Hunter is going to make a lot of money in the NFL. He is going to make a lot of money. And, what do you do? Do you shut him down? If he's out 2 or 3 weeks, the Heisman might be difficult. But,
yeah.
That was a tough hit.
I agree with you 100% that the safety who was coming up, he was coming up there to hit him, but he was actually kind of pulling up as contact was made. He didn't blow him up by any stretch.
He could have killed him. He could have killed him. He was all alone. The pass didn't happen. He could have killed him. I think he pulled back a little bit. Yeah. And I think anybody who's ever played football understands that you can slow that down so it looks like he had time. He did not have a whole lot of time to compute ball on ground. Don't kill the dude who's good. He went into the game saying, "I'm going to knock the crap out of him," because that's what football is, and he did. It was late, but it wasn't. He didn't get thrown out of the game. He didn't hit him in the head. It wasn't worthy of any ejection.
It was definitely unfortunate, but you could tell that Travis Hunter actually fell down. He did not get blown, 3 people deep and land on his shoulder blades like I would if I ever played one play in college football.
It was a hit, but it was more of a collapsing hit rather than a just blow him up. He could have killed him.
Let's segue that right into Colorado at Oregon. Does this give Colorado some motivation, or does everybody else have to play better? But can they play well enough to beat Oregon, who I think has always been pretty nifty as far as getting up and down the field and the way they do it?
Yeah. So the good news for Coach Prime, if you're a fan of his and you're a fan of what they're doing, and who isn't right now, They're now 21-point underdogs, and Hunter being out has a lot to do with that. And, with Hunter, they're probably 10, 12-point underdogs, maybe, since he plays both sides and affects both sides of the game. But listen, they're not going to, he's taking an NFL mentality to this. So he's not looking for excuses. He's looking for answers on how to win the game, not excuses on why, if they lose. But it is going to let some of the pressure off if they drop this one. And, they've already won more games than they won last year. And, listen, I'm a fan of his. I'm a fan of what he's doing. And we've talked about it. I love the way he talks about making these guys into young men, good parents, good fathers. Yep. And he's continuing to do it. Leaders lead. I saw that interview he did yesterday where he's saying, get off this guy's back and everything. And that's what leaders do. And that's what men do. And he has got such a free reign of things because he doesn't answer to anybody. He's not trying to keep his job. He's prime time, for God's sake. Super Bowl champ, World Series would have been the MVP. And he's got, both his sons are playing great. And I saw another thing where one of the wide receivers for them, I forget the guy's name, was having a bad game. And, off to the side, Deion Sanders is hugging the kid and talking to him. He then catches the game-tying touchdown. And I just think he treats every one of these kids like they're his freaking kids. They talk about the two sons, but I think he's got 85 sons on that team. I really do.
So quick question on that. I know the quarterback is his son, and he's got like the longer hair. Is that why you're growing your hair out?
Yeah, I'm looking to do that as well.
Let's jump right to Notre Dame, Ohio State. I saw an interview with Urban Meyer. He's very interested in, can Notre Dame continue to blitz the way they have been? And will Sam Hartman be the player that he needs to be if Notre Dame's going to beat Ohio State? Because Ohio State's one of the best teams in the country.
I agree. And, Hartman was brought in for that reason. And this is a game that if Notre Dame wins, I will start to believe. If Notre Dame loses, it'll be same old, always be 8 to 10 wins, never compete with the elite teams again because of academic requirements and because of just, they don't have the Jimmies and Joes that everybody has. I hope Notre Dame wins. I have no problem saying I hope Ohio State loses. I hope Notre Dame wins, but Ohio State's only 3.5-point favorite. So that's not a ton for Ohio State and Notre Dame. Where over the last, when Urban was coaching, that would have been much higher.
Sure. And one of the old adages, I probably heard this when I was 10 years old, never bet for or against Notre Dame just because you have no idea what they're going to do. I do have to correct one statement that you had an omission, that they're normally like an 8 or 9 win team, except for when they're 12-0 and they go to the championship game and play Alabama and get absolutely destroyed.
Yeah, that loss was worth at least 3 losses. So I think that dropped them down to 10-3.
You're already anticipating.
Yeah, so Notre Dame's head coach, he played at Ohio State. He was a linebacker at Ohio State. So there's a lot of, and then they recruit for the same guys. Notre Dame's national, Ohio State, national. They recruit the same guys. They're going to have a lot of kids that know each other, a lot of guys that looked at both programs. It's the marquee game. I think it's 7:30 on Saturday night. I mean, it's a big time game.
And you talk about coaches who know the other programs. Let's get to Ole Miss versus Alabama. I'm saying roll tide. Roll tide. I love the way Nick Saban does his thing and the message he sends and the way he sends it. And Lane Kiffin coaches the other team.
Right. And I like Lane's swagger with the Ole Miss team. I like what he's doing at Ole Miss. I know he's been immature at times with leaving schools quickly and doing stupid stuff. And I think, like I said before, I think he's been chasing his dad's legacy for so long. Monty Kiffin, who brought us to Tampa too. If Alabama loses, their season's over. It's over. They will not. They're done. They'll have 2 losses. And, obviously they can crawl back into it, but He'll be sent out to pasture. Everybody will say Nick's finally it's out, it's done, which is stupid, absolutely stupid. But it's what will happen. And if Ole Miss win, the other reason they'll say he's done is because after going through a long stretch of never losing to an assistant coach, he lost to Sarkisian last week or 2 weeks ago, and then if he loses to Lane this week, it's going there is going to be that rumbling. I don't think Ole Miss is going to come in and win in Alabama. I think that last week's game where they let USF hang in there is because they were working some stuff out and didn't want to show anything. I would assume that they didn't even practice for USF the week before they played them. Everything's after that loss to Texas has been SEC opponent, SEC opponent, SEC opponent. The only way we're getting back into this is to dominate the SEC and get back in.
So my craziness inside my mind and how much I just admire and respect Nick Saban, if Ole Miss happens to win that game, if I'm the president of Alabama, I extend Nick Saban's contract because he is going to be one motivated hombre, and a motivated Nick Saban could win 3 more national championships in the next 5 years.
Yeah, listen, the one thing Kiffin does very well at every stop he's ever been on is he recruits. And he recruits well, and he's recruiting the hell out of the transfer portal. And this is going to be crazy to say because it's the SEC, and you're talking about Alabama and Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss has even less standards than a lot of the other SEC teams. I think Ole Miss and Mississippi State, if you can spell Mississippi, you're in both of them.
Yeah.
There's a place for that in college football, and Lane's there. And I've never been there. Everybody I talk to said, if you're ever going to go to one game, go to an Ole Miss home game. And so that might be he may have gone through 17 stops to find that spot. And if he's going to stay there and they're going to beat Alabama, which, but again, what are they? They're getting 7 points at Alabama. That's one of those games I like to say, Ole Miss is going to win a close game or just get destroyed. Just get destroyed. Alabama's going to come out with a lot of pride, great coaching, and take the opening kickoff back for a touchdown. And Ole Miss is going to wish they never even got off the ball.
Then we have tomorrow night NFL Giants Niners. Saquon Barkley, if I read it correctly, has already been ruled out. So,
and he's the pick that set the Giants back for 10 years. You don't pick a running back fourth like him. He's injured. He's been injured a lot. He's completely hosed the Giants, and then he held them hostage this year for money, and he's already out. They're only getting, what are they getting? They're getting 10.5, which is a lot in the NFL.
Yeah.
The 49ers are everybody's pick, and I don't see. Now, listen, if Bosa lights up Daniel Jones early, then it's going to be over. If Daniel Jones runs and has some, productivity with his feet like he did last week, and so Daniel Jones is like a lot of young quarterbacks. He's not that young anymore, but he's like a lot of these guys. 1 week he's one guy, the next week he's somebody else. So that's going to be a big game. That's a Thursday night game. What do you think? We'll get back to some college, but the NFL. So we got the Eagles on Monday night. All right, and they play here in Tampa. Now, my question is this. Are you a fan of the 2 Monday night games, 7:15 and the 8:15 start? Because it happened last week. We have Steeler fans in the house, so it was okay. They would have rather had 7:15. Now with the Eagles, they are the early game. I'll be able to stay up and watch that whole game. What are your thoughts on the 7:15 game?
I love the idea of 2 Monday night games, but I don't think it's prudent to have the viewer. There are only so many eyeballs on Monday night they're going to watch games. Why make us choose? And I think they could do one game at 6:30 or 7 and the other game at 9, like the old Monday night games with Howard Cosell and the theme music and all that. So I don't mind 2 games, because NFL drives the bus when it comes to that kind of stuff. But let's go Eagles. The Eagles are going to – it should be interesting.
Yeah, and that's going to be a tough game. I mean, they're coming down here, and they're 4.5 point favorites, and they're banged up. They're banged up in the defense backfield. They're banged up on defense. You know, Mayfield could have a day, and this could just be one of those games. The Eagles come down here and get back on a plane and say, "Well, that doesn't kill us. It's not in our division." I could see Tampa Bay winning that game. My question is, obviously they're doing the two games for the streamers like ourselves, and where you can have that, but also now, what are you going to do when you got two games? I'm hoping they're never going to have two games and a Manning cast. I mean, then you're not going to know what the hell to watch at 9 o'clock at night. Because the guys are funny. We watched the beginning of the first game, and then we went on to the Steelers game, which ended up being like one of the worst offensive games. But the Steelers are winning. And if you win while you try to figure things out, it's better than losing while you try to figure things out. So,
it's like you're a genius.
Yeah, it's like I'm a genius. But the biggest thing is for college football, we're finally getting into the Big Ten is now in the Big Ten schedule. The ACC is in the ACC schedule. There's not great games, but they're meaningful games. We're not playing the directional schools. We're not playing the schools that we're paying to come and, us kill them so that the alumnus who spends a lot of money's nephew, who's third string walk on, gets in the game. And the Big Ten doesn't have a lot of great games, but I'll tell you an interesting game. Obviously, Maryland, Michigan State. Now, Maryland is 7.5-point favorites. They're going to Michigan State. They haven't played a game on the road. They're not a young team because they have a 3-year starter at quarterback. Michigan State is in complete and utter turmoil. I mean, whether you know what's going on with Mel Tucker or believe in what's going on with Mel Tucker or think he was screwed or think he's an idiot, he's not coaching the team. He's been let go, not let go, whatever the hell the deal is. I think he's officially fired now. And he's going to try to recoup $79 million. And I just don't see how the team is in the headspace to beat Maryland. But also, that's a dangerous team.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're coming in when an assistant coach takes over, your coach has been fired. It's kind of like, if I'm the assistant coach, my message is, F it. You're all playing for game film and probably transferring anyway. Do everything you can possibly do to play great.
Yeah.
And that are going to stay. We still have everything in front of us. And the story's just gross. It's just stupid. I don't know if you followed this story, but
I've seen some, and I know about the $79 million. And I don't have a crystal ball, but I have a crystal ball that tells me he's going to get 20 million of it. And it's going to go, when the news cycle changes onto something else, we'll never even hear his name again.
Yeah. And, you can't have 27 phone calls for over, 30 minutes with a woman and her not be in some capacity involved in the phone call unless she just puts the thing down and leaves it. So I'm not getting into that. But, and then the other thing that's kind of disappointing as a person who lived in State College for a long time and whose wife's from there and her family loves that area and still has mother-in-law there. Iowa at Penn State is the whiteout. And it's this weekend. And that might be, I've never been to LSU, but I've been to plenty of whiteouts. It is the most I sound like Ric Flair. It is the most electrifying event. It's just incredible. It is absolutely great. The day of tailgating, going in, the fans are nuts. It is, it's how they beat Ohio State. It's how they win these big games. And they're playing Iowa. And the town will be awesome. And the atmosphere will be awesome. And they're 14.5-point favorites against Iowa, who doesn't even score 14.5 points on a regular basis during the season. I don't think they probably have 3 and 4 stretches. What a disappointment for the Big Ten. What a disappointment for Penn State when they got Michigan, I think, coming there this year, for God's sakes. How do they put the whiteout as the Iowa?
I will tell you that if I'm orchestrating some of this, I would say let's do the Iowa game as the whiteout, and let everybody go nuts, like you said, because it is a absolutely insane, really cool atmosphere. And then a week before the Michigan game, you come out and say, this year we're doing 2 whiteout games and we're doing it again, unless they lose.
Well, yeah,
They
but
lose to Iowa. We've never seen another whiteout.
well, it has to be a night game too.
Yeah.
So you got to figure out what the timing of the game and everything. I just think, Iowa, Penn State, it'll be that's one of those games. Now we'll watch it because Jackie and Darlene will be completely invested in it. But that's one of those games that the national audience will not watch as much as they'll watch Ohio State, Notre Dame. So, they lose the national audience too. They'll get the Penn State fans, and you'll get the Iowa fans. But I mean, what is that? I mean, 1,500 people in Iowa, and I get went to Iowa. I like Iowa. I've been there. It's great, but it seems like kind of a waste in the entertainment business that is college football.
Right. And they want to get the gears going for Penn State to be great because they do have a really solid team this year. And I think they're going to go, threaten some people and might even make the college football playoff.
So this is the year that they got to beat Ohio State and they got to beat Michigan. And that's unfortunate for anybody in that division. And that's what Maryland's up against, except Maryland has to beat Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important that Maryland wins all the games they're supposed to win, because they've got to go 8-4, 9-3, something like that. Maryland, I've said it before, Maryland's goal is to go 8-4 every year, catch lightning in the bottle twice a decade, go 10-2 or something like that, because they're always going to have to play Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan. Penn State has not done well in the Franklin era when you consider what Penn State expects. Okay. And when they get to the 12-team playoff, it'll be great for Penn State because they would have gotten like 3 more playoffs. So that'll be good for them. But right now, they have to dismantle Iowa and they have to get ready for Ohio State and Michigan. And, people at Penn State, Franklin's been there a while. I think they're kind of getting to that point. Okay, great. Let's see what we can do in these 2 games. And that kind of sucks. I mean, it's 2 games. And if you don't do well in those 2 games, everybody's like, oh, well, a shitty season.
Another blown opportunity.
Now, the ACC is one thing that I find this, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but Florida State has not beaten Clemson since 2014.
That's insane. Well, I tell you, Duke hadn't beaten him since 1914, so maybe it is possible.
Well, yeah, 1914. Well, you would remember, what were you, 3rd grade? But Florida State's going to Clemson, and they're 2.5-point favorites because they're in Clemson. And this is the, shit or get off the pot thing.
Yeah.
If you beat Clemson, you're for real in Death Valley, which should be a big event. And I do think if they beat Clemson, I do think they will. If they beat Clemson, this might be Dabo either having to go somewhere else because the message has gotten older and maybe it's time for him to move on, or it's going to be Dabo's wake-up call. And it's kind of ironic because a long time ago, Penn State got crushed by Clemson in a bowl game, and it was Joe Paterno's wake-up call. He decided, okay, we're done just recruiting tough white kids from Pennsylvania and New Jersey. We need to get some speed. And I think Dabo wake-up call would be, he's been against NIL. He's been against the transfer portal. He's been, sort of a young curmudgeon old man. And if they lose to Florida State, it's starting to look like Dabo might have to either change with the time. They got incredible facilities. It's an absolutely great place to recruit from. And if they lose to Florida State, there's going to be murmurs of, is it time for him to move on? Or somebody's going to come down and say, hey, Dabo, I know you don't like the portal. I know but guess what? It's not going anywhere.
And you can't just keep saying dadgummit.
Yeah, dadgummit. But I could be wrong. Maybe they'll come out. Listen, I wanted to go to Clemson. I thought it was awesome. Danny Ford would never even talk to me. I said Danny Ford went to a Maryland game. This is years ago. Darlene was a baby, and Jack and I were at the game. Danny Ford sat right behind me, and we're sitting there talking. I told him how much I loved Clemson. And he said, why didn't you come? I said, because you never even talked to me. I don't even think I got a letter from you. And he laughed and he said, oh, that was our mistake. We missed on a great one. I said, no, you didn't. You made the right move. But
funny story about letters is now I've learned that college football programs, and let's say it's Clemson, they'll be recruiting Joe Bergstrom, and so will Auburn or Alabama. So they will get Clemson letterhead. Auburn will. They'll get Clemson letterhead. Everything looks like it came from Clemson. And they'll call you Tim Bergstrom. They'll say, Dear Tim, we're so thrilled with the way you play. They'll spell your school wrong. They'll do it. And it looks like it came from Clemson. How just greasy is that?
well, you know, that's the old story of for Under Armour. They went to go give a guy, they were doing a presentation for shoes, and they did a presentation. And I guess Nike did the same presentation to an NBA guy, but forgot to change the name. And that's how I believe Under Armour got the kid from the Warriors.
Steph Curry.
Yeah, because I think Nike forgot to change like Kevin Durant's name or something like that. I mean, that may be just a rumor, but so, you know, college football is getting good. The NFL is starting to pick up. It's injuries. And we said 4 games in, stay healthy. Cleveland hasn't stayed healthy. Deshaun Watson looks like he just needs to relax. Like maybe he should go and get himself a massage. He's not playing well. And he's just too tense. Maybe, you know, 20 massages over the next 8.5 days. We'll get him where he needs to get.
I knew you were holding on to that one, but you didn't talk about it in the pre-show, I didn't with the Travis Hunter. God bless Travis Hunter. Let's go Irish. Let's go Eagles.
The only thing I want to say, obviously I followed Chubb and all the Georgia guys because Greg Pike blocked for all those guys.
Yep.
But you're doing a game Friday night in Baltimore, the first of a lot of games. Where can people see it, and what game are you doing?
It's the Ravens Rise High School Football Challenge, and it is River Hill playing another. God, I'm blanking on. Hold on, I can pull out my notes right in front of me. Long Reach. All those Howard County schools have 2 names.
Yeah.
So it's River Hill, Long Reach, and it's on the Ravens YouTube channel. I'll be doing it with Brent Harris. Got 6 pages of notes, so it's going to be unbelievable. They do, you know, some pyrotechnics before the game. The kids love it. The Ravens give each school $1,500. A bunch of cheerleaders come, a bunch of the band come, the marching band, and it's a big Friday night for me. I'm really looking forward to it. That'll be an awesome occasion. And that's on Friday night. Then Saturday we have a ton of college football, and Monday Night Football. EAGLES.
Yep, I'm contemplating coming back, and then I'm going to do one shameless plug for our lacrosse fans. Cardinal Mooney girls is looking for a head lacrosse coach, and I'm going to tell you this: it might not be this year because of the timing of the year, but for all of your friends and all the people that watch and listen, we need somebody from Baltimore, Philadelphia, who is the second coach or the third coach at an MIAA school or an Interact school or one of these things. Come down to Sarasota, teach at Sarasota, live in Sarasota, run camps. Florida is starting to flourish with it. And if we can get boys and girls lacrosse coaches down here, I mean, it's prime. So
yeah,
see, Cardinal Mooney is where I'm interested. But there's so many. I've been on so many calls the last couple of days with great guys. Friends that, you know, Marichek give me some suggestions and some other guys and getting some names. And everybody's saying the same thing. We need to get some great high school coaches from up there that, you know, if you're the second guy or the third guy at Loyola, Blakefield or Gilman or Boys Latin, great opportunities down here. Malvern Prep, you know, Haverford School,
Yep.
There's great opportunities. Agnes Irwin girls, you know, whatever it is. So hopefully we can start doing some national searches down here because the money's good and the camps are good, and it's
the weather's not bad.
No, the weather's not bad. So
The weather's not too shabby.
All right, my man.
That does it for this week. He's Bergie. I'm Booker. We do what we do. Cheers. We're sponsored by Powerade this week.
Coach Joe.